Alright, so this video is on transformations of the independent variable, which is on page 166. Page 166. Alright, let's start off with consider the graph and table for the function f of x equals x squared. So first of all, this whole thing right here matches this, and this is the graph of this equation. Okay, so basically what this is saying is if you put -2 in for x, you get 4. If you put -1 in for x, you get 1. 0, you get 0, so on and so forth. Okay, so it's asking, consider the following transformations on the independent variable x. So what would happen if we added it to 2? But remember, we're talking about the independent. So what would happen is if we take these numbers right now and we added it by 2, which answer would we get? Okay, what if we subtract it by 2, what if we multiply it, and what if we divide it by 2? Okay, and why do we think these are called transformations of the independent variable? Because we are changing. So now we're going to be changing the independent variable, which basically means we're changing the x value. So the x value. So last time, our last lesson was about changing the y values. This time we're changing the x values. So let's see what this means. Okay, let's go on to, let's practice problem 1. Complete the table to determine what happens when you add a positive constant to x. So basically, remember these right here, this is the box from the previous equation. So this is asking what would happen if we change that and add 2 to it. So if I use -4, I plug -4 in here, -4 plus 2, that answer is -2. So what you need to do is you need to look here. Which one of these is -2? The answer was 4. Okay. Now what would happen if I change it to -3? Well, -3 plus 2 is -1. So I look for the answer of -1. That answer is 1. And look what they got, 1. Okay, so basically what this is saying is you get the answer here and you look at this chart right here, and you look and see which x value is the same as these values right here. Whichever x value that is, your answer is the next number over. So that's why this box got -2, that answer was 4. This box got -1, that answer is 1. Okay. If you can notice, this changes from -4 to -3. Let's go down to -2. So I do g of -2 equals f. Remember, so this is now going to be -2 plus 2. So this is saying I owed somebody $2. I paid them back $2. How much do I owe them? That answer is f of 0. So if I look at my other box, which one of these is f of 0? Well, this answer is f of 0. So my final answer would be 0. Okay. Now, all you have to do is match. So I matched this one with this answer here, and I took whatever the box next to it is, and that box was 0. All right, let's do -1. So I do g of -1 equals f of -1 plus 2. So this is saying 2 minus 1. Well, 2 minus 1 is f of 1. So where is f of 1? F of 1 is right here, and that answer is 1. So this answer is 1. All right, and let's do our final one. So the next number after -1 would be 0. So 0 goes here. So g of 0 equals f 0 plus 2. So 0 plus 2 is 2. So which one of these matches? I look for my 2 over here, and it's the next number, which is 4. There we go. So now, I take my x values, which are these values right here, These values are all my x values. And then I grab my y values, which are all these over here, and I graph them. So the first dot says -4 and 4. So -4 is right here, and I go up to 4, which is right here. -4 and 4. The next one is -3 and 1. -3 and 1. -2 and 0, which is right here. -1 and 1, which is right here. And 0 and 4, which is right here. So start at your vertex and draw your line, and draw your line. Okay, what did you notice about this one? So if you notice, the original one started at 0. This new one starts at -2. So if we add 2, so if you add, the graph shifts, and it shifted to the right or to the left? Well, as you can see, it shifts to the left. Okay, and it shifted twice, so that means it's going to shift depending on how much you add. So depending on what you add. So if I added 10, it would shift 10 spaces. If I added 2, it would shift 2 spaces. Pretty easy. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Complete the table to determine what happens when you add a negative constant to x. So this one, we started at 0. We plugged it in. 0 minus 2 gave us -2, and that answer was 4. Then we have 1. That answer was 1. Now, if you can notice, this is going from 0, 1, so the next number would be 2. So we do h of 2 equals f of 2 minus 2. That answer is 0. So I grab whichever 0 is over here, and I match it. So 0 is right here, and it's the next number, which is 0. Okay, so it goes 0, 1, 2. The next number would be 3. I'll do it a different color. So I'm going to input 3 for that problem. So this is h of 3, which equals f3 minus 2. 3 minus 2, well, that's going to be 1. And that answer is right here, 1. So I take the number, that number is 1. Okay. Last but not least is going to be, if we're going in order, 2, 3, and then 4. So it goes h of 4 equals f of 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So this answer, I locate it, that answer was 4. Alright. Go ahead and graph this one the same way. So remember, I take my x values, which are these ones all right here, and then I graph my y values, which are all these right here. You should notice that the graph does shift. Now it depends on where it shifts. Go and graph that, and go ahead and write where it shifts at the bottom. So if I were to graph this, at the end, I would write where it shifts. If I can get the pen to come out. Okay, I would say shifts blank spaces. Okay, so when you graph it, you'll be able to tell me how many spaces it shifts and where it shifts to. Does it shift to the left? Does it shift to the right? Does it shift up, down, so on and so forth? Okay, let's go ahead and let's try 5. This time, we start with -1, and we're multiplying each number by 2. So it goes -1, -1/2. We're going to start with 0. So this is going to be m of 0 equals f of 0 times 2. Well, anything times 0, well, that's easy. It's just 0. So I look for my match. That's a 0. This is a 0. My answer would be 0. Okay. If I follow the pattern, the next number should be 1 over 2. So m of 1 over 2 equals f2 times 1 over 2. Okay. If I multiply this, 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So this would be f of 1. All I'm basically doing is putting the 2 at the top. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I match this with the 1 here, and that answer, 1 there. Alright, now the last one I'm going to do, so I followed the pattern. This went 1/2 to a negative 1, so it's just going to be a positive 1. M of positive 1 equals f 1 times 2. Well, 1 times 2 is 2. So I match which 2 is there. 2 is right here. That answer was 4. Okay. Go ahead and graph this one. If I were to graph this, remember that the x's are here and the y's are the next ones. I'll graph with you. So the first point is -1 and 4. So -1 and go up to 4, which is right here. The next one is -1/2 and 1. So -1/2 is in between 0 and 1, and that point would be right here. Okay. Then I have 0, 0, so it starts right in the center, and 1/2 and 1. So that would be about right here. And last but not least, 1 and 4. Okay, draw your line. And as you can tell, the graph got skinnier. Okay, got super skinny. So when you multiply the independent, the graph, what happens to my graph? It compacts, meaning it gets skinny. All right. Okay, so when I graph those, I will get a skinnier graph. When I multiply by a larger number, your graph gets skinnier. Okay, let's go ahead and let's try the last one. Complete the table to determine what happens when you multiply by a constant between 0 and 1. So between 0 and 1, that's 1/2. So basically what it's saying is you're going to divide these numbers by 2. So if I do -4, -2, the next number would be 0. So this would be n of 0 equals f of 0 divided by 2. So anything divided by 0 is 0. So I look for that answer. That's 0. My answer over here would be 0. Okay. Next one, if I follow the pattern, would be 2. So remember, the pattern is already given to you. Your middle number is always going to be 0, and the next two numbers are going to be the opposite of these two numbers. So the opposite of 2 is 2. Or sorry, the opposite of -2 is 2. So n of 2 equals f of 2 divided by 2. Remember, 1/2 just means you're going to divide by 2. So this would be f of 1. So I look for that f of 1, that's 1 right here, and 1 right there. Okay, and last but not least would be the 4. Remember, you're taking the opposite of the other two numbers. So n of 4 equals f of 4 divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this answer, grab right here, and it is 4. Okay, so now go ahead and graph that and do the same thing that I said over here. What happens when you divide a number by 2, or when you divide a number by anything? Okay, that is it for this video. and I will see you in class.